During a quiet dinner, my son-in-law throws a dirty rag at me and growls, "You didn't clean the house today, you useless old man." And my daughter, whom I raised with love, coldly agrees, "You have to be useful for something." I, a 70-year-old father who gave them everything, stand up and shout 3 words, after which they turn pale and their world shakes. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The front door slammed with enough force to rattle the picture frames in the hallway. I didn't flinch anymore. After 3 years of living here, I'd grown accustomed to Buford's explosive entrances. The warm, soapy water felt good on my arthritic hands as I continued washing the dinner dishes, the ceramic plates clinking softly against each other. Keys hit the hardwood floor with a metallic crash. Then came the sound of shoes being kicked against the wall, followed by heavy footsteps stomping toward the kitchen. I could smell the leftover meatloaf still lingering in the air, mixed with the scent of dish soap and my own tired resignation. "Another bad night at poker," I murmured to myself, scrubbing a stubborn grease stain from the casserole dish. My worn apron, the same one Margaret had bought me years ago, hung loosely around my 70-year-old frame. Buford appeared in the doorway, his tie loosened, stubble covering his jaw like he hadn't bothered shaving that morning. Sweat stains darkened his shirt collar. His eyes swept across the kitchen with predatory focus, searching for something, anything, to justify the rage burning inside him. "You didn't clean the house today, you worthless old man." His voice cut through the peaceful domestic quiet like a blade. "Can't you see this mess everywhere?" Before I could respond, his hand shot toward the sink, grabbing the greasy dish rag I'd been using. Water dripped from it as he raised his arm. "Buford, please," I started, but the words died as the soaked rag flew through the air. It struck my back with a wet slap, cold dishwater cascading down my shirt and onto the linoleum floor. The fabric clung to my spine, heavy and humiliating. Slowly, I turned around, water still dripping from my gray hair. From the dining room, Deborah looked up from her laptop, papers scattered around her like fallen leaves. Her eyes met mine for just a moment before she joined the attack. "Dad, you need to be useful for something." Her voice carried that corporate coldness I'd learned to recognize. "We can't afford to keep a freeloader around here." Something inside me snapped. 3 years of accumulated rage, of being treated like a servant in the house my money had bought, of watching my dignity dissolve one insult at a time. It all erupted at once. My back straightened, my hands still wet from the dishwater, slowly formed into fists. "I know you!" The words exploded from my chest with a force that surprised even me. The kitchen fell silent except for the sound of water dripping from my shirt onto the floor. Deborah's face went pale. What does he mean?" Buford stepped backward, his earlier confidence wavering. "He doesn't know anything, just an old fool losing his mind." But I could see it in their eyes, that flicker of fear, the sudden recognition that maybe, just maybe, their house of cards was about to tumble down. Without another word, I turned away from them and walked toward the basement stairs. My wet shirt clung uncomfortably to my skin, but for the first time in 3 years, I felt something other than defeat. They had no idea what I discovered about them. As I sat on my narrow basement bed at 11:45 p.m., the sting of that dish rag still fresh on my back, I remembered how different things were when I first moved in. The damp spot on my shirt reminded me of another kind of water. The fire hoses that couldn't save my house. October 15th, 2022, 3:47 a.m. I still remembered the exact time because I'd been watching the digital clock on my nightstand when the smoke alarm shrieked. By the time I stumbled outside in my pajamas, orange flames were already licking through the roof of the home Margaret and I had shared for 32 years. Deborah had arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing her pink nightgown, genuine tears streaming down her face as she watched 40 years of my memories turn to ash. "Dad, you're coming home with us." She'd wrapped her arms around my shoulders, her voice breaking. "It's not even a question." I'd never seen such kindness in her eyes since she was 12 years old, back when she still called me Daddy and asked me to check for monsters under her bed. The insurance settlement came through 6 weeks later. $30,000, barely half of what I needed to rebuild. That's when Deborah and Buford sat me down at their kitchen table, the same table where tonight's confrontation had just occurred. "Dad, we want to help," Deborah had said, holding my hand across the worn Formica surface. We found this house we love, but we're just short on the down payment. November 18th, 2022. I remember signing the check at First National Bank, $45,000 from my savings account, every penny I'd managed to preserve from the fire. "Dad, you're our guardian angel," she'd whispered, kissing my forehead. "We'll pay you back, I promise." 3 weeks later, it was Buford's turn. "Elvin, my truck finally died. I can't get to work without reliable transportation." Another check, $18,000 for a shiny red pickup that he drove like a teenager, showing off to his friends. For the first time in years since Margaret died, I felt useful again, needed, important. But somewhere around mid-2023, the requests started feeling different. Less like requests, more like expectations. "Elvin, could you handle the utilities? You're here all day anyway, and we're both so busy with work." "Dad, we need to convert the guest room into Deborah's home office. You wouldn't mind moving to the basement, would you? It's cooler down there in summer. Since you're retired, could you help with the laundry? And maybe dinner prep?" I justified each new responsibility to myself. They were stressed with work. I had time to help. This was what families did. They supported each other. By 2024, the transformation was complete. I'd become their unpaid housekeeper, cook, and groundskeeper. When they took that cruise to the Caribbean last summer, I handed over $8,000 for their vacation while I stayed home to watch the house. Deborah stopped saying, "Please." Buford stopped saying, "Thank you." "Where's my pressed shirt?" became his morning greeting. "Dad, we can't have you just sitting around. Earn your keep," became hers. The utilities ran $400 monthly. Groceries cost me $600. Repairs, maintenance, their entertainment. It all flowed from my pension account like water through a broken dam. That dish rag hitting my back tonight was the final straw of 3 years of humiliation. I stood up from my bed and walked to the loose drywall panel I'd installed myself near my small desk. My construction skills, at least, hadn't abandoned me. It was nearly midnight when I decided to face the truth about what they'd cost me. Behind the loose panel lay my accordion file, hidden like a secret weapon in my cramped basement fortress. 3 years of meticulous record-keeping, every receipt, every bank statement, every check stub, organized with the precision of a man who'd spent 40 years calculating structural loads and material costs. I'd been an engineer for 4 decades. Numbers don't lie, even when people do. Under the circle of light from my single desk lamp, I spread the documents across the small surface like blueprints for a demolition project. My calculator sat ready, its green LED display glowing in the basement darkness. Down payment, $45,000. Vehicle, $18,000. That was just the beginning. Utilities for 36 months. $400 multiplied by 36 equaled $14,400. Groceries for the same period. $600 monthly, totaling $21,600. I'd kept every receipt, every bank statement, recorded every dollar that flowed from my pension into their lifestyle. $45,000, I whispered, punching numbers into the calculator. $63,000, $87,000. Home repairs when their furnace died, $3,200. When the roof leaked, $2,800. Vacation money, entertainment, their anniversary dinner at that expensive steakhouse downtown, $8,000 in miscellaneous expenses I'd covered without question. $127,000. I sat back in my chair, staring at the final total. In 3 years, I'd given them more money than most people earned in 2 years of full-time work. My pension brought in $2,800 monthly. Multiply that by 36 months. $100,800 total income since moving in. I'd given them more than my entire pension income, dipping into savings Margaret and I had built over decades of careful planning. I pulled out my notebook, the one where I'd started tracking their behavior patterns 6 months ago. November 15th, 2024. Deborah told dinner guests I was helping out around the house while I served them like hired help. December 25th, 2024. No Christmas gift from them, but they expected me to pay for their gifts to each other. Each month they needed more money and showed me less respect. In construction, we called this scope creep, small changes that eventually destroyed the entire project's foundation. But I'd been thinking about this all wrong. Every building has load-bearing elements, Remove them correctly, and the whole structure collapses in a controlled demolition. My pension was their foundation. Without it, their house of cards would crumble within months. Their mortgage payment, their lifestyle, their ability to maintain the illusion of success, all of it depended on my continued financial support. They wanted to know what I knew. Tomorrow, I'd start showing them exactly what I'd discovered. I carefully returned each document to its proper place in the accordion file, then sealed it back behind the panel. Above me, I could hear Buford's thunderous snoring through the thin basement ceiling. Sleep well, I thought, setting my alarm clock for 6:30 a.m. Tomorrow, your foundation starts cracking. I had phone calls to make, starting with my old friend Cornelius Grant. The next morning, I woke with the clarity that comes after a sleepless night of revelation. My alarm buzzed at 6 a.m., but I'd been awake since 4, listening to the house settle around me. Above, I could hear Buford's heavy snoring, Deborah's lighter breathing. They slept peacefully while I planned their reckoning. Friday morning brought new opportunities. During breakfast, I observed Buford's nervous energy, fingers drumming against his coffee mug, checking his phone every 30 seconds, avoiding eye contact when Deborah mentioned their upcoming mortgage payment. After they left for work, I heard him talking quietly in the basement den, his voice carrying through the thin walls with acoustic clarity I'd learned to appreciate during 40 years of construction work. "Jack, I need an extension. 15 grand is serious money. I know what I owe, but the old man's been acting strange." $15,000. My engineering mind automatically calculated. That represented 5 months of my pension payments flowing directly to them. While Deborah shopped Saturday morning and Buford worked his weekend shift, I conducted my first systematic search of their private spaces. The basement office revealed layers of financial desperation they'd hidden beneath their demands for my support. Bank statements showed overdraft fees, credit card balances exceeding their combined income, and automated transfers draining every penny from their accounts within days of deposits. Using my smartphone, technology I'd embraced more readily than they assumed, I photographed each document methodically. Hidden beneath the false bottom of Buford's filing cabinet, I discovered the real treasure, second mortgage documents they'd never mentioned. $2,800 monthly on top of their original payment. 40 years of construction experience had taught me to find hidden structural elements. Financial records weren't much different. You just had to know where weight-bearing information was likely to be concealed. Sunday evening's family dinner carried new tension. Deborah's work stress manifested in sharp, clipped responses to casual questions. "If they lay me off next month, we're finished," she muttered, stabbing at her mashed potatoes. Buford's defensive response came too quickly. "Your father doesn't understand our situation. He thinks money grows on trees." After dinner, I positioned myself near their bedroom door, years of careful eavesdropping having taught me exactly where the floorboards didn't creak. "Your father doesn't know about the second mortgage, right?" Buford's voice carried clearly through the thin door. $2,800 a month. We can't survive without his pension." Deborah's reply held genuine panic. Maybe it's time for the old man to have an accident. I stood frozen in the hallway, my notebook forgotten in my hand. Not from shock, from professional interest. This was evidence, concrete and actionable. By Sunday night, I had enough documentation to destroy them completely. But destruction required proper planning, systematic execution, and the right professional consultation. Monday morning, I had a phone call to make to an old friend who specialized in legal demolition. I told Deborah I had a doctor's appointment Monday morning. Not technically a lie. I was about to cure myself of being their victim. The downtown bus route I'd taken countless times to job sites now carried me toward my liberation. Cornelius Grant's law office occupied the 3rd floor of a classic brick building on High Street. Mahogany furniture, leather-bound law books, and framed diplomas created the atmosphere of competent authority I desperately needed. "Elvin Nichols, you old dog!" Cornelius rose from behind his massive desk, silver hair perfectly styled, warm brown eyes sharp with intelligence. "What brings you to my office after 3 years?" I spread my evidence across his conference table like architectural blueprints, photographs, bank statements, recorded conversations transcribed in my careful engineer's handwriting. His expression shifted from friendly curiosity to professional concern as he reviewed each document. "This is financial elder abuse, plain and simple." He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. You're listed as joint owner on the property deed. They can't evict you, despite what they might threaten. What about my financial obligations? None. You have no legal duty to support adult children who are systematically exploiting you. His voice carried 40 years of courtroom authority. We can establish your rights immediately. What exactly do you want to accomplish, Elvin? Justice? Legal? Methodical? Complete? At First National Bank, my 40 years of steady employment meant excellent credit and respectful treatment from the branch manager. Opening a separate account took 30 minutes. 30 minutes that represented the beginning of my independence. Mr. Nichols, we can set up automatic transfers to ensure your pension goes directly here, the manager explained, sliding new bank cards across his polished desk. The weight of those cards in my wallet felt like carrying keys to a prison I was finally escaping. Riverside Realty occupied a converted Victorian house near the University District. Sarah Mitchell, the agent, greeted me with professional enthusiasm that reminded me how it felt to be treated as a valued customer rather than unpaid help. This unit has everything you need, Mr. Nichols. Quiet neighbors, convenient bus route, and the landlord prefers mature tenants. The one-bedroom apartment wasn't luxurious, but after 40 years of building homes, I recognized quality construction and honest pricing. The kitchen was clean and functional, the bedroom large enough for my modest needs. I'll take it. I wrote a deposit check from my new account, each number feeling like another bar removed from my cage. You can move in April 1st, Sarah said, handing me a key ring. Your first independent space in years? More independent than you know. The bus ride home felt different. I carried new bank cards, apartment keys, and legal documents that proved I wasn't powerless. As we pulled into my neighborhood, I saw Buford's red truck in the driveway and smiled. Time to begin their education. Tuesday morning arrived with spring rain against the kitchen windows. I made coffee as usual, cleaned the breakfast dishes as usual, but everything had changed. I had weapons now, legal rights, financial independence, and most importantly, knowledge of their desperation. While they worked, I sat at their kitchen table with my laptop, methodically canceling every automatic payment I'd been covering. Utilities first: electric, gas, water, internet. 40 years of paying bills had taught me which ones hurt most when late. Each canceled payment felt like removing a support beam from their comfortable structure. Tuesday evening brought the first confrontation. Deborah noticed the overdue electric bill among the mail scattered on the counter. Dad, why aren't the utilities paid? The electric bill shows a past due balance. I looked up from my newspaper, expression carefully neutral. I'm looking for work. Need to be useful, remember? That's not what we meant. Isn't it? You called me a freeloader who needs to earn his keep. Her face reddened. You're being ridiculous. You know what we meant. I know exactly what you meant. Wednesday brought grocery shortages. I stopped my daily shopping trips, ate simply from canned goods they wouldn't miss. Soup, crackers, foods that wouldn't be noticed until they were needed. The refrigerator emptied gradually. Buford's favorite imported beer disappeared first, followed by the expensive coffee, the organic vegetables Deborah preferred. Where's the coffee? Buford demanded Thursday morning, staring into the empty canister. We're out. Then buy more. With what money? I'm looking for work, remember? Thursday evening, I heard them arguing in their bedroom while I pretended to watch television in the living room. Your father's lost his mind. This is ridiculous, Buford's voice carried through the thin walls. We can't afford groceries without his help. You know that, Deborah replied, her voice tight with panic. Friday morning brought both of them to the kitchen table, their approach coordinated but desperate. Elvin, what's this nonsense about finding work? You're retired. Buford's tone mixed irritation with genuine concern about their monthly budget. I folded my newspaper carefully, meeting their eyes with the steady gaze of a man who'd built foundations for 40 years. You said I needed to be useful. Freeloaders can't just sit around. We didn't mean you should stop helping with expenses, Deborah started. Which expenses? The ones I've paid for 3 years while you called me worthless? My voice remained calm, reasonable, unmovable. The $127,000 in expenses? Their silence stretched like a structural crack under pressure. You've been keeping track? Deborah whispered. Engineers always keep track. Friday night, I heard them whispering in their bedroom, voices urgent and afraid. The electric company had sent a final notice. The refrigerator hummed nearly empty. 3 days without my financial support, and their comfortable world was already cracking. I pulled out my notebook to record their desperation. Phase 1 was complete. Saturday morning brought gray skies and an ultimatum. I'd been awake since 5, organizing my documents while listening to their urgent whispers upstairs. The electric company's final notice had arrived yesterday. Today they would make their move. I was ready for mine. The living room had been transformed into a tribunal. Deborah and Buford sat together on the couch, a united front against their common problem. 3 coffee cups waited on the table, steam rising like incense before an execution. I entered carrying my manila folder, settling into the single chair they'd positioned facing them. The air felt charged, like before a thunderstorm. 40 years of project meetings had taught me to let opponents reveal their position first. "Dad, we need to discuss your recent behavior." Deborah's voice carried diplomatic calm, but her knuckles were white around her coffee mug. "Either you return to normal life, or get out of here." Buford's restraint lasted exactly 30 seconds. "This is our house. You're here by our charity." I sipped my coffee slowly, studying their coordinated attack. They'd rehearsed this, probably half the night. Financial obligations, ingratitude, threats of eviction, each argument delivered with desperate conviction. "Dad, you can't abandon us like this. We're family." Deborah's appeal to emotion came right on schedule. Interesting perspective. I set down my cup with deliberate care. "Tell me more about ownership." Their confidence radiated from every gesture. They believed they held all the cards, that a frightened old man would crumble under their united pressure. I let them overcommit to their position, just like watching contractors bid themselves into bankruptcy. When they finished their ultimatum, I slowly opened my manila folder. The papers inside represented months of preparation, legal consultations, and strategic planning. First document, co-ownership papers from our 2023 mortgage revision. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Buford leaned forward, aggressive posture faltering slightly. "Joint ownership, legal rights, cannot be evicted." I spoke each phrase with engineering precision. "This house belongs to both parties equally." Deborah's face drained of color. "Dad, you never mentioned." Second document, photographs of financial records, bank statements, gambling receipts, 15,000 in poker debts. I looked directly at Buford. "Does Deborah know?" "You went through my private papers?" His voice cracked between outrage and fear. "Our house, remember? Equal access to all areas." 15,000? Buford, what is he talking about? Deborah turned toward her husband, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time in months. Third document, second mortgage papers, payment schedules, default notices. 2,800 monthly, hidden from me for 18 months. The complete power reversal took less than 5 minutes, from defendants to prosecutors, from victims to judges. They sat frozen while I gathered my documents with the same methodical care I'd used to spread them. "I'll let you two discuss your situation." Their stunned silence followed me toward the basement stairs. The foundation was cracking exactly as calculated. Behind me, I could already hear the first sharp words of mutual accusation beginning. As I descended into my sanctuary, one thought echoed through my engineer's mind. Phase 2 was complete, but I knew Buford wouldn't accept defeat quietly. The real test would come when desperation turned to violence. The weekend passed in cold silence, punctuated by heated arguments between Deborah and Buford. I stayed in my basement sanctuary, emerging only for meals, watching their marriage fracture under financial pressure. Monday morning arrived with an electric company truck in our driveway. 7:30 a.m. brought the inevitable disconnection. The worker knocked politely, showed his notice, and flipped the switch that plunged our house into powerless darkness. Refrigerators stopped humming. Digital clocks blinked off. 3 years of comfortable living died with a simple mechanical action. "Dad, you have to fix this. The neighbors will see." Deborah's panic echoed through the darkened kitchen. I looked up from my newspaper, reading by morning sunlight streaming through windows. I'm still looking for work, remember? Buford's weekend rage had been building like pressure behind a dam. The power disconnection broke his last restraint. He cornered me in the kitchen, shoulders squared, fists clenched at his sides. "Old man, you've pushed me to my limit." His voice carried genuine menace as he stepped closer. using his height and 40-year age advantage to intimidate. I remained seated at the table, phone already in my hand, thumb hovering over the speed dial I'd programmed 3 days ago. "Step back, Buford. This won't end well for you. You're going to fix this mess, or—" He raised his fist, the threat clear and unmistakable. The 911 call connected on the second ring. "Police emergency. I'm being threatened with assault in my own home." My voice carried calm authority, while Buford stood frozen, fist raised, realizing too late that I'd anticipated this moment. "Are you in immediate danger, sir?" "Yes, my son-in-law is threatening to hit me." Buford's rage mixed with sudden comprehension of consequences. "You clever old—" "Buford, stop!" Deborah grabbed his arm, preventing disaster, but not preventing the police response already in motion. 2 officers arrived within 8 minutes. Officer Martinez, a senior patrolwoman with steel-gray hair and assessing eyes, and Officer Chen, younger but equally professional. Their presence immediately shifted the household dynamic. "What's the situation here?" Officer Martinez surveyed the scene with practiced efficiency. "I was threatened with physical assault by my son-in-law." I remained seated, portraying the vulnerable elderly victim I legally was. "This is ridiculous. He's destroying our family." Buford's defense sounded exactly like what it was, desperate justification. "Sir, I need you to calm down and step back." Officer Martinez's command carried absolute authority. The questioning took 20 minutes. Neighbors had gathered on porches, witnessing our family crisis become public spectacle. Their attention added pressure to an already volatile situation. The officer's recommendation was simple: mediation, cooling-off period, and a clear warning to Buford about future incidents. "Public apologies or I file assault charges," I stated calmly, while the officers nodded approval. Buford's compliance came through gritted teeth, pride battling against potential criminal consequences. The law enforcement validation of my position established new household rules with official backing. As the police car pulled away, I saw something dangerous in Buford's eyes. The public humiliation had changed him. Deborah looked between us with calculation I'd never seen before. They would comply with my terms publicly, but I sensed their private plans were taking a darker turn. Tuesday brought artificial sunshine to our household. Deborah made pancakes, something she hadn't done in 2 years. Buford apologized over coffee with words that sounded rehearsed. The police visit had taught them the value of public appearances, but I knew better than to trust this sudden warmth. The stage family breakfast felt like theater. Deborah served with exaggerated care. Buford spoke with forced politeness, and I played the grateful patriarch while recording everything on my smartphone. "Dad, I'm so sorry for how we've treated you." Deborah's performance included actual tears. "Elvin, I was out of line. Stress got to me." Buford's contrition sounded practiced but necessary. I accepted their apologies graciously while planning their downfall. As a goodwill gesture, I paid the electric bill, restoring power and their confidence that manipulation still worked on the foolish old man. Mrs. Patterson from next door witnessed our reconciliation through her kitchen window. Exactly what they needed her to see. Wednesday morning, I rode the bus downtown to an electronics store. My cover story was simple: upgrading home security after recent stress. The digital voice recorder cost $60 and fit easily behind their living room bookshelf. Installation required precision. During their work hours, I tested recording quality, battery life, and remote activation through my smartphone app. The device captured conversations from anywhere in the open living dining area where they conducted their most private discussions. Thursday evening, I retired to my basement early, claiming exhaustion. They believed their loving father was finally relaxing his vigilant guard. I activated the recorder remotely and waited. Their whispered conspiracy unfolded with crystal clarity. "We can't keep pretending everything's normal." Deborah's voice carried desperate urgency. "Your father's got too much on us. We need a permanent solution." Buford's response chilled me with its casual finality. "What are you suggesting?" "Accidents happen to old people. Stairs are dangerous." "Buford, are you talking about—" "I'm talking about survival. It's him or us." "How would we—" "Leave that to me. You just need to be somewhere else when it happens." I sat in darkness, listening to my daughter agree to my murder. The recording device captured every word, every pause, every breath of their conspiracy. Late Thursday night, After their bedroom fell silent, I retrieved the device and reviewed the audio. Clear evidence of conspiracy to commit serious harm against me. The daughter I'd raised, protected, and supported for 37 years was planning my death for money. I copied the recordings to multiple devices and uploaded everything to cloud storage. 3 backup locations, each with complete documentation of their plot. As I sealed the evidence back in its hiding place, I understood that tomorrow would end our family relationship permanently. The recording device felt heavy in my hands, weighted with the death of every bond I'd cherished. Tomorrow, I would call Cornelius and arrange the final family meeting. The evidence would speak for itself. I spent Friday afternoon arranging furniture in my new apartment, each piece placed deliberately like chess pieces. The recording device from their conspiracy sat heavy in my pocket. Tonight, at dinner, I would end this charade permanently. The dining room felt like a courtroom awaiting verdict. I'd insisted on a proper family dinner, complete with formal place settings, and my manila folder positioned beside my plate. The small recording device sat openly on the table, innocent as a salt shaker. Deborah and Buford arrived cautiously, sensing something different in the atmosphere. 40 years of presenting construction proposals had taught me the power of methodical revelation. "What's this about, Dad?" Deborah's voice carried forced lightness as she noticed the device. Without explanation, I pressed play. Their own voices filled the dining room, discussing my murder with casual efficiency. "We need a permanent solution. Accidents happen to old people. Stairs are dangerous." Buford's face drained of color as his recorded words echoed off the walls. "How would we—" "Leave that to me. You just need to be elsewhere when it happens." Deborah's hands began shaking as she heard herself agree to patricide for money. "That's taken out of context." Buford's defense came too quickly, too desperate. "We weren't serious," Deborah added, her voice breaking. I stopped the recording, letting silence stretch between us like a chasm. "The audio is quite clear. You planned my murder." Next came the documentary evidence, spread across the table like engineering blueprints. Poker receipts, hidden mortgage papers, maxed credit cards, 3 years of systematic deception laid bare in chronological order. 15,000 in gambling debts, hidden second mortgage, credit cards maxed to their limits. I spoke with professional precision, treating them like failed business partners. All supported by my pension while you plan my death for insurance money. "Dad, please, we can explain—" Deborah reached toward me, but I pulled back. "Explain planning my death? You can't prove intent." Buford's lawyer show knowledge sounded pathetic in our suburban dining room. "I don't need to prove anything." I produced the apartment keys from my pocket, setting them beside the evidence. "I have my own place now." Their faces registered complete shock. The dependent father they had exploited had become an independent man with options. 30 days to become financially independent, I continued. "Attempt contact after tonight, and I involve authorities." Desperation replaced arrogance. Promises flowed like water from a burst pipe. They'd change, get counseling, pay me back, anything to maintain their comfortable parasitism. "You wanted me dead," I said, standing and gathering my evidence. "Our family relationship died first." I walked to my car with a single suitcase, 40 years of construction plans, and absolute certainty. Behind me, through the dining room window, I saw them shouting accusations at each other. The foundation I'd built for their comfortable life was now rubble. Time to see how well they managed without it. Saturday morning, April 1st, I returned with a rental truck and 2 movers. The irony of the date wasn't lost on me, but I was done being anyone's fool. Deborah watched from the window as I loaded my belongings, her face pale with the realization that I meant every word. My apartment transformation took 3 days. Each item found its proper place. Books arranged by subject, tools organized in labeled drawers, photographs of Margaret displayed where morning light could touch them. Everything clean, orderly, mine. The first week brought immediate consequences. Phone calls to utility companies removed my name from all accounts. Bank notifications redirected my pension to the separate account they'd never accessed. Joint accounts closed with professional efficiency. Their house began dying without my financial life support. Utility threats arrived within days. Grocery money vanished. The comfortable lifestyle I'd subsidized crumbled like poorly mixed concrete. Deborah's work performance declined rapidly, arriving late, making errors, distracted by financial panic. 3 weeks after our final dinner, her supervisor delivered the inevitable termination, due to recent performance issues and attendance problems. Meanwhile, Buford's desperation drove him to worse gambling choices. Instead of scaling back, he doubled down, trying to win back their security with borrowed money and mounting losses. I learned these details through various channels. Cornelius provided legal updates. Former neighbors shared gossip during chance encounters at the grocery store. Public records revealed the progression of their financial collapse. By week 4, foreclosure proceedings began. Bank notices appeared in legal advertisements. The house that my down payment had purchased would be sold to cover debts my absence had created. Buford's red truck disappeared from their driveway one Tuesday morning, repossessed from his workplace parking lot, while he sat inside making cold calls to clients who'd stopped returning his messages. They attempted contact several times, showing up at my apartment building, testing the security I'd arranged. The doorman had clear instructions, and I'd prepared restraining order paperwork if necessary. Week 6 brought the final confirmation. Their house sold at auction for 60% of its previous value. The proceeds barely covered the mortgages and liens. They moved into a small rental apartment across town. Their comfortable suburban life reduced to secondhand furniture and shared transportation. I felt satisfaction at justice served, but the victory was hollow. Evenings in my peaceful apartment sometimes echoed with memories of better times. Deborah as a child, showing me crayon drawings, asking me to fix broken toys with infinite faith in her father's abilities. Those memories belonged to a different family before greed and desperation transformed love into exploitation. The people who'd planned my murder were strangers wearing familiar faces. 6 weeks after revealing their conspiracy, I sat reading the real estate section over morning coffee. Their former house had been relisted by new owners, completely renovated, priced $30,000 above what they'd lost it for. That evening brought an envelope with familiar handwriting, Deborah's careful script from childhood thank you notes. Inside was a single sheet that began, "Dear Dad, I understand now what we did to you." The letter sat unopened on my kitchen table for 3 days. I'd built a new life without them. Volunteer work at the homeless shelter, chess tournaments on Wednesdays, coffee with Cornelius on Sundays. Reading Deborah's words might disturb the peace I'd finally found. But curiosity, and perhaps lingering paternal love, won. Her letter contained no excuses, no blame shifting toward Buford or circumstances. Just acknowledgement. I became someone I don't recognize. I exploited your love, agreed to a plan that would have killed you, and called it survival. Specific apologies followed: the financial abuse, emotional manipulation, and that horrible conspiracy. I don't ask for forgiveness, just the chance to look you in the eye and take responsibility. 3 weeks passed before I responded. During that time, my new routine provided stability and purpose. Volunteer shifts at Columbus Community Shelter showed me people rebuilding from worse circumstances. Chess club sharpened my mind while providing companionship with people who saw me as Elvin the strategist, not Elvin the victim. Regular coffee with Cornelius helped me process the complex emotions. Forgiveness isn't required for healing, he reminded me, but it's an option when genuine change occurs. I agreed to one meeting, neutral location, a downtown cafe with easy exits and enough ambient noise to ensure privacy. Public space, limited time, clear boundaries. Deborah arrived first, 20 minutes early, thinner than I remembered. Her expensive clothes had been replaced with secondhand simplicity. She stood when I entered, but didn't approach until I gestured toward the reserved table. "Thank you for meeting me." Her voice carried none of the manipulation I'd learned to recognize, just exhaustion and genuine remorse. We talked for 45 minutes. She described their current situation without seeking pity. The small apartment, her part-time job, cleaning offices, marriage counseling sessions where she and Buford faced the reality of what they'd become. "I chose to support his plan," she said without flinching. "That makes me guilty of conspiracy to commit murder against my own father." The words hung between us like a bridge neither of us was sure we could cross. "Forgiveness is possible," I said carefully, "but trust must be rebuilt slowly, through actions, not words." Her relief was visible but controlled. "What would that look like?" "Continue the changes you've started: therapy, financial responsibility, No contact attempts. Prove change through behavior over time. We parted with a handshake, not a hug. Appropriate emotional distance for people rebuilding from betrayal. I'll call in 3 months, I told her. If you've maintained these changes, we can talk again. Walking home through downtown Columbus, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Hope tempered by wisdom. Justice had been served. Boundaries were established. The door to reconciliation remained cracked open, but on terms that protected my dignity and independence. Back in my apartment, I made tea and settled into my reading chair with a library book about structural engineering innovations. Outside, spring evening light painted my walls golden. For the first time in decades, I was exactly where I belonged, safe, respected, and free to choose my own future. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.